America, I'm Sydney Blase, and tonight we are covering the most serious political crisis in our nation's history, the growing Watergate scandal.
What started as a simple burglary has turned into questions of abuse of power at the highest levels of government. Here's what we know so far. Late last night, 5 men were arrested at the Democratic National Committee here at the Watergate. They had cameras, film, and listening devices.
President Nixon and his team are extremely worried about the 1972 presidential election. They believe the Democrats are out to get them, so they formed a secret party called the Plumbers. Their job is to stop leaks and to gather dirt on Nixon's political enemies.
Some of these men were working for Nixon's re-election committee, known as CREEP. They broke in to plant bugs and to spy on the Democrats' campaign plans.
The White House continues to call this a third-rate burglary with no connection to the president.
Today, joining us, we have Bob. Thank you so much for being here. Bob is from the Washington Post, and he's been working very hard at finding more exclusive details on our story. Bob, what have you found so far?
Me and my fellow reporter, Carl Bergenson, have found that the money that was supposed to be for President Nixon's re-election fund was actually given to the burglars to help support them in the Watergate scandal. We've also found from our secret source Deep Throat, who told us to follow the money. This shows us that this wasn't just a coincidental crime, that this was organized by the White House to destroy their opponents and to cheat in the election. Millions of Americans are glued to their televisions watching the Senate Watergate hearings.
John Dean, who used to be the president's lawyer, testified that President Nixon knew about the break-in and helped organize the cover-up. John Dean says that there is a cancer growing on the presidency.
Nixon and his top aides wanted to hide their involvement so that it would not hurt his chances at getting reelected and so that they could avoid embarrassment.
They paid burglars, they destroyed documents, and they stopped the FBI from investigating. They believe that the president should be able to do whatever it takes and whatever is necessary to protect his power.
Then, another major revelation. White House aide Alexander Butterfield revealed that President Nixon had secretly been recording almost every conversation in the Oval Office. This proves that we can find out what President Nixon knew and when he knew. Reporting live from outside of the White House, we just got word that President Nixon is firing his general attorney, and there has been large protests after his top two Justice Department officials resigned, and tonight will forever be known as the Saturday Night Massacre.
So, why do we think that Nixon fired his attorney general?
Well, I believe that President Nixon was afraid that the special prosecutor would force him to give over the tapes, but President Nixon believed that he had the right to hide any conversations that he wanted because he was the president and could do whatever he wanted. But the people believe that he's actually doing this just to hide the evidence of his wrongdoing.
The Supreme Court has ordered President Nixon to release the secret tapes. One of them has been made public this evening, and it is now being called the smoking gun tape.
In this tape, President Nixon is found ordering his staff to block the FBI investigations and to help with the cover-up. This proves that President Nixon was involved from the very beginning. Why would he do this, you might ask? Well, he was paranoid about his enemies, the press, the Democrats, and even people inside his own government. He thought that he had to play dirty to win the elections and to stay in power.
Facing certain impeachment and removal by the Senate, President Nixon addresses the nation this evening. Okay, so I've come to the conclusion, because of that Watergate affair thing, I low-key have no support from Congress that I kind of need to win tomorrow, so I'm kind of thinking I don't want to be the president anymore, so I'm going to resign, and I will not be here anymore.
Richard Nixon will become the first president in the United States history to resign. Vice President Gerald Ford will take the oath to office tomorrow.
This national nightmare is finally coming to an end. However, it has proposed serious questions about honesty, power, and whether anybody, including the president, is above the law.
We will continue to bring you updates as the story develops. Thank you for watching. Good night.